G'day guys, Brendan here. Welcome back to the Cargo Bike crew. Meet the O2feel Equo 5 Adventure. This is a new addition to the Equo cargo range, and thanks a lot to Dutch Cargo for the generous loan of this bike. These really help us get our reviews out, but these opinions in the review are our own. And I reckon this is such a good looking bike. We've been getting a lot of comments when we're out and about on this one doing the review. Kind of reminds me of a cruiser bike, like a Harley Softail or an Indian Scout with the, it's got the big saddlebags or pannier bags on the back, and it just gives the bike a bit of road presence. It's a bit of an underdog in the long-tail cargo bike world. So yeah, if you're considering something like a Uber Spicy Curry or a Bike 4.3, even a Turn GSD, I reckon you should have this one on your list and take it for a test. All right, let's check out the specs and see why I reckon this is one of the best on the market. At the time of review, the Equo 5 Adventure is priced at 7,799 Australian dollars. I reckon that's pretty good value for money. You get a really nicely spec'd bike. You get a lot of these accessories included. There's a few things I'd change, but I'll get to that a bit later on. You get a 5-year frame warranty. You get 2 years on the components. You get a really great 4-year battery warranty. And most suppliers really only do 2 years on the battery. O2feel are really committed to their design. They've designed the battery to be integrated into the frame here, just like all of their e-bikes. So yeah, it looks really good. They're also tested and certified by Shimano. The bike's 195 centimeters long, which is about average amongst its long-tail competitors, and it's 70 centimeters wide at the back there on the outside of the bags. It's got the mullet set up, so it's got the big 26-inch wheel at the front, and then you've got the smaller 20-inch wheel at the back, so that keeps the cargo low at the back, and it really feels like a normal bike at the front. And you've also got this RST suspension fork. It's got about 60 mil of travel, and when I weighed this bike with all the accessories on it, it's about 45 kilos. If you take off some of the optional accessories, it's 38 kilos. The Equo's load rated up to 180 kilos gross weight, so that's load through the tyres. You've got 80 kilos max load on the rear rack, and you've got 15 kilos maximum load on the front. This rear rack is 62 centimeters long, and it's 18 centimeters wide. So just keep that in mind. If you've got accessories that clamp around there, you've got to check that that's all right. It's also got 2 MIC HD connectors, so one on the back here, one on the front. Those are for child seats or any other basket accessories, things like that. Between the handrails, it's 42 centimeters, and then front to back, it's about 60 centimeters, like I said, so you can fit a Euro crate in the back. The front rack is 32 centimeters by 42 centimeters, so up the front you can fit crates like a half Euro crate or any basket, things like that. Just got to be mindful. You can see here the front rack sits quite high because of the suspension and the big front wheel. So when you're loading up, you just got to be mindful not to load things too high up the front here. The frame's designed to suit riders from 160 centimeters to 190 centimeters. You do need an Allen key to adjust the seat post and the stem for adjustability. I'm 177 centimeters tall. And yeah, I've got the riding position here quite aggressive. It feels a bit like a mountain bike position. I kind of like that. You can adjust the stem to be a bit more upright. The actual distance from the seat post to the stem is quite long. It's about 3 centimeters longer than our Turn HSD, which is one step up in sort of a typical frame sizing, but sort of what that translates to is just a really stable and confidence-inspiring ride. It's quite a nice bike to ride, whether it's loaded or unloaded. You do have a suspension seat post here. It's unbranded, but I think it's an Ergotech seat post by the looks of it. And on top of that, you've got the Selly Royal saddle. It's been really comfortable. This combination in our testing has been quite good. It's a step-through frame, so you've got the quite chunky down tube here with the battery inside it. And then you've got this smaller tube up the top here, quite lowish step through, 50 centimeters over the top there, which is pretty good, and it's quite stable with the kickstand while you're mounting it. We've got Shimano parts everywhere, starting with the heart of the bike, the Shimano EP6 cargo motor. It's got 250 watts of power, 85 newton meters of torque. It's speed limited to 25 k's an hour here in Australia or 32 k's an hour in New Zealand. Shimano claim 500 watts peak power, and the cargo tuning provides assistance from a really low speed, pretty much straight away when you're starting off with the traffic lights, and that really helps you get up to a good speed when you're loaded up with cargo. The motor responds really quickly on hills as well, so you're never really bogged down. Tuning's really close to the Bosch cargo line as well, and it's the noise levels are not as quiet as the performance line, but they're probably just a little bit quieter than the Bosch cargo line or the Performance CX motor. The battery on the O2 Equo Adventure is 720 watt hours. That's built by O2feel in partnership with Shimano. So the 4-year battery is the best on the market at the moment, and O2feel say the lifespan's probably about 80,000 kilometres. The maximum range is claimed on the head unit to be 230 kilometres, but no one really rides around in eco mode all the time. So we'll get you a bit of a range test later on in this review. All right, power is driven through the Q's drivetrain here. It's a 1x9 transmission. Now, while it's marketed as an entry-level group set, it's super durable, it's quite reliable, and it's got a really good gearing. So up front, there's a 48-tooth chainring. On the back, you've got an 11 to 41 cassette. So that range is pretty big. You've got your climbing gear, so it'll get you up hills really easily. And the gearing's enough to sort of give you a good pedal cadence even when you're heading down hills at 35 or 40 k's an hour. And being 9-speed, it should be really inexpensive to maintain as well, find parts everywhere. The brakes here are the Shimano 4-piston MT 420 with 180mm rotors front and back. They are fitted with resin pads as standard, so these will give you really good performance out of the box. But if you're riding a lot in the wet, you're heavily loaded, that sort of stuff, you're going to wear through them really quickly. So maybe have a look at upgrading to sintered pads and compatible rotors as well for that. That'll give you really good braking performance. Now, I did have an issue with the length of the front brake hose. What we've done is swapped the left-hand front brake to right-hand front brake, so from Euro spec to Aussie spec. But what that's meant is that when you turn in one direction, it's just a little bit too tight. Hasn't been an issue while I've been riding, but I can see that it's getting quite tight down there. With like a easy fix, you can put a slightly longer hose on there, but I'd like that to be done in the factory just so it's easy to swap left or right. Doesn't matter where you send the bike around the world. The tyres are the Conti E-Contact Plus. They are 2.2 inches wide at the front, 2 inches wide at the back. They roll really well. They grip pretty good in most conditions, but strangely enough, the non-adventure models of the Equo actually are fitted with the Schwalbe pickup tyres, which are one of my favourite tyres for both on and off-road conditions like this. So yeah, if you're going more on gravel trails, you might look at fitting something like the new Smart Sam Cargo with a bit of a chunkier tread, and I think it'd really suit the look of this bike. All right, that's enough specs. Let's take it for a ride and see how it feels. All right, out on the road first, and the Equo feels fast. I've been leaving it in the middle setting, which is called normal mode. So you get full torque, but it's a smoother ramp up. Eco mode, you got better range, but you're limited to 30 or 40% power. And then high mode or boost mode, you get the maximum kick really early on in the pedal stroke. In normal and high mode, the motor response is pretty instantaneous. So the second you take off from the line, the power's there. So it's pretty much on par with the Bosch Gen 4 cargo line, and way better than the Gen 3 performance line, which always has a little bit of a lag. So the big tyres smooth everything out. They grip really well. We've got heaps of grip in the corners. We've put 30 kilos on the back and we've got 10 kilos in the front. Now with the load a little bit higher, you do get a bit of that wobble, but the lower, try and keep your cargo as low as possible, so with the 20-inch wheels you can get it right down in the panniers and you'll be nice and stable. When it's loaded up, go around this roundabout here, feels really nice and planted. Front wheel goes right where you want it to. No problem. And coming to a stop here. Yeah, braking performance is really balanced, so you can really feel that bite point is nice and smooth and progressive. Works right away. It's been really dry while we've been reviewing the last 2 weeks here in Melbourne, so we haven't had a chance to do any wet weather testing. Like I said earlier, I reckon you'd wear through these resin pads pretty quickly if you're doing a lot of wet weather riding, so you'd probably want to upgrade to sintered pads and compatible rotors pretty soon. And yeah, the Q's drivetrain might not be as refined as some of the higher end Shimano offerings. It's just a little bit clicky and it just clunks into gear, but it really does it without effort. So the shift action is really light, goes into gear every time, even under power, no issues, super reliable. Up here on the shared trail is where I'd like to see a bigger tyre fitted to the back of the bike. The back half of the bike here can feel a bit crashy when you're going over cracks in the pavement like that, curb cuts and whatnot. So while the suspension seat post is going to help you as a rider, your cargo and passengers are really going to be bounced around if you take these at speed. And most competitors these days are running a 2.4-inch tyre on the back, so I reckon you could squeeze one of those on the back of the Equo quite easily. All right, before I get to the acceleration and braking test, let's talk a bit about the range. Did a full charge to 100% and the onboard computer claimed 84 kilometers in normal mode. So I rode the usual daily drop off and commute, back and forth, mostly flat with light loads, and with 1 bar remaining or 20% charge, I'd ridden 74 kilometers and it showed 17 kilometers range to go. Running a battery below 20% all the time can reduce its lifespan, but it's good knowing that you could get nearly 90 kilometers of range without having to resort to eco mode. Let's click it into high power mode and see how fast it gets up to speed. All right, starting here in second gear, got it in high power mode. I find it spins out a bit too quickly in first gear, so we'll keep first gear for the hill test later. And let's go. 3, 2, 1, go. Gets up to speed pretty quickly. Braking test. And on the brakes pretty quickly, probably 4 meters braking distance there, and that's not too bad. All right, let's head down the road and do a hill climb test. All right, we're here for a hill climb test. Not sure if that shows up on camera, but it's about 100 meters long up to the top, 11% average. There's a steep bit, it's about 15% here. We've got it in high power mode. I'll start in second gear, see how we go. We might need to shift halfway up, but we'll see how it performs. Let's go. Shift, easy done. A little bit of pressure through the pedals, but not too difficult. Just spin it, 10 k's an hour. Really steep section. Holding 10 k's an hour. There we go. Shifting on the load like that, no problem. And here we go. Yeah, so that hill climb was pretty good. We're out here Bayside in Melbourne, so not too many steep sustained climbs, but based on that, I reckon the Equo would perform quite well in the hillier areas of Melbourne and around the world. Let's head to the next section. Got a little gravel loop here. You might be heading out on rail trails or out to find a hidden camping spot, something like that. Despite the more road-oriented tyres, you've got plenty of grip up front from the 26-inch tyre. It's pretty good. The suspension's really plush, so you're going to be soaking up bumps and potholes and ruts, things like that. You've got the suspension seat post for yourself. Your passengers, like I said before, are probably going to suffer. Fitting a fatter tyre is going to help a little bit, run a bit of a lower pressure in these areas. The chain's going to get pretty grubby if you ride gravel a lot, so maybe look at waxing the chain instead of using a wet lube. There's a belt drive option available on the Equo, but it's really low maintenance. It's what we've got on our Urban Arrow at home, but just be aware if you're going out of the big city on a holiday somewhere, or you're just going on a long ride, a replacement belt's going to be pretty hard to find out in the bush. So yeah, the chain's going to be a 9-speed chain. All of the parts are pretty easy to find in any bike shop anywhere in the world. So just keep that in mind. It'll get you up and running pretty quickly. We took the Equo out for our weekly grocery shop. Normally we do this on the Urban Arrow, so we did one basket on the front rack and another in front of the child seat. It was a bit hard to fit shopping bags past the seat, so everything else we just put loose in the maxi bags. In hindsight, I should have just taken the seat off the Mic HD seat mounts unclip really easily, but we got there in the end. And if you don't have to take kids to the shops, you could get a big 60 by 40 crate on the back if you don't have the seat on there. The Equo stays nice and stable, even with a wobbly kid on the back, and the rear bars have this extra rail to protect your kid's fingers in case you bump up against something, so they stay nice and safe. As you can see, the passengers do bounce around a bit at the back. Some days he asked me to slow down, otherwise he had heaps of fun riding around. Did the usual daycare drop-offs. I had my work stuff on the front rack and put his bag just in front of the rear seat. Something like the backy bag might be better if you had 2 kids with backpacks, but there are lots of mounting options on the rear rack to carry all your stuff. Alright, I'll show you guys 2 things here. I wanted to show you walk mode, but also we just came back from the shops. I moved the kids' seat to the front Mic HD connector, which leaves room at the back for this big bucket. Yeah, it's quite a big one. And you can also fit, this is an Ortlieb back roller pannier, which fits onto, there's actually a second set of rails down here, which is pretty useful. You can clip the panniers underneath any seat so it doesn't take up the same rail. You can put one on both sides, which is pretty cool. If you do have a seat on the back, these Urban Icky, the footrests come off as well, which is really nice. But we'll jump onto the walk assist. So it's really easy to set up. Hold the down key until the foot shows up. So just long press until the foot shows up. Get it off the kickstand. And then it'll show up. I've got it in first gear here. You can get over things like curbs and up steps or whatever. But basically just hold the down key and it'll start pushing forwards for you. Just as easy as that. Just climb up the curb. Super easy. Did a quick trip on the train. I also used walk mode here to roll up from the platform because there was a bit of a step. The bike easily turns around on itself so you can maneuver on the train, and it's short enough to fit in all the elevators without any trouble. And yeah, using the train's a great way to travel a bit further from home without getting in your car. And here's a charge port. Just open the cover and plug it in. Unfortunately, the bike came with a 2-amp charger, so it took over 10 hours to fully charge. A 4-amp charger would be much nicer. And you can remove the battery under this cover, just undo the thumb screw, take the cover off, and then you can unlock it up here with the key. Alright, now we get to the accessories. Like I mentioned, you get a few of them included in the $77.99 price of this bike. So you're all set up for adventure with the front rack here. You've got the mini frame bag underneath. It's got zips on both sides. You can stick a chain lock in there. Snacks, little bits and pieces, toolkit even. You get the rear bars. You get the footrests down here, and you also get the plastic wheel protectors if you're not using the maxi bags. So these are actually an optional extra. They're 45 litres each. I have found them a little bit difficult to fit things in around the child seat. This is a third-party Urban Icky with the mic HD connector, so you can fit 2 of these seats on here. I'll take these accessories off so you can see what it's like with just the included accessories. So there you go. So you'd add the plastic wheel protectors on the side here, and you can have just seat pads on the top. So if you don't need the child seat, your kid can just sit on the back and grab onto the bars. Even an adult can sit back there. 80 kilo load limit. All right, the kickstand is the Ursus Jumbo. It's not my favorite kickstand on the market. It's a little bit narrow. I mean, it's stable enough, but you want to keep your hand on the bike while your kids are loading on. It can need a little bit of force. When you've got the back loaded up, it'll try and keep it fixed in place, which is good, but you will need to sort of lift the front of the bike up and flip the kickstand underneath before you set off. As is pretty standard on most cargo bikes, you've got the hardwired front and rear lights. They're both AXA lights. The rear one's pretty good. It's got a brake sensing function, so it'll go brighter when you're slowing down. It comes with pretty sturdy mudguards. They don't rattle around at all. There's actually a fair bit of clearance there, so you can fit some fatter tyres if you want. It doesn't come with a frame lock, but on the back here there's mounts already, so you can fit an ABUS frame lock on there. Competitors in the market, you've got the Uber Spicy Curry V4, recently released, a little over $8,000. It has front suspension and a 26-inch front wheel. You get a 20-inch front wheel, so very similar. You get the Bosch Cargo Line motor with a micro-shift 9-speed group set, but you don't get any accessories for that price. You've got the Bike 4.3, which is around $9,000. You get a Bosch Cargo Line motor as well. That's linked to a Shimano Inter 5E internal hub. It doesn't have front suspension, but it's still 26-inch front, 20-inch rear. They claim you can fit 3 kids on the back of that one. It's a little bit longer than this bike, but you could squeeze 3 on the back here, if I'm honest. And then you've got the ever popular Turn GSD. That's only got a 20-inch front wheel, but it's also got front suspension, 20-inch rear wheel. You can fit 2 kids on the back of that. That's around $8,000, but it's coming up to end of life, soon to be replaced, I reckon, with the smart system. So there might be some deals coming for that. You get, on the S10 version, which is similar setup, you get the Bosch Cargo Line motor and the Shimano 10-speed group set, but also no accessories for $8,000. All right, so who's this bike for? I think, as the name suggests, anyone looking for adventure, whether it's urban adventure with your kids heading to the local playground or a library, or you're wanting to go further afield on rail trails, gravel rides, or even a solo camping trip. The bike's pretty much set up to take you there. You've got the big battery, 720 watt hour with 90 kilometre range, 4-year warranty as well, which is really good. You've got the really powerful EP6 cargo motor linked to a super reliable Q's 9-speed drivetrain. Should be easy to repair and inexpensive to maintain. And really, yeah, you've got everything set up to take you on all your adventures wherever you want to go. So I reckon put it on your list, take it for a test ride and see how you like it. I really loved it in our time. So yeah, if you like this video, please give us a like if you found it entertaining or useful, and subscribe for more adventures. Cheers.